and the evening, afternoon, and so forth. Morning for me here on U.S. West Coast time. So this is a follow-up AMA regarding SingularityNET Phase 2 proposal. We did a pretty extensive AMA a few days ago, but not surprisingly, there's been more follow-up questions and discussion on various social media channels related to SingularityNet, and also I think not everyone has followed all the discussion all along. So I mean, in the last couple of days, some people have started paying attention to the Phase 2 proposal, and some of the same questions are being posed again. And I mean, this is really important stuff. So I think it makes sense to go over a few of the same things again, and then answer new questions that have come up in the meantime. So that's what I'm going to do now. The previous AMA was sort of a monster, like 2.5 hours or something. I think I'm probably not going to do that again. I mean, I think it was good to go over all the really key questions that were posed by the community, and we did that last time. So I'm going to go, as long and deep as I need to get through the questions that have been posed. But the wall of questions facing me doesn't look as big this time. So much like in the previous AMA, I'm gonna review the basic nature of the proposal first. I'll try to keep it more concise this time, just for anyone who didn't watch the previous one or hasn't read everything. I'll give a quick once through, and then some of our team has aggregated the questions posed in the last couple days on the Telegram, Twitter, the forum, and all over the place. So I'll go over responding to some of the already aggregated questions, and then also try to keep it a bit interactive. And if new questions are rolling in real time in Telegram or whatever, we can address some of those as well. So yeah, first of all, even before going over the essence of the proposal again, I want to say I've been really overwhelmed with the positive energy and attitude that we've seen on SingularityNet channels after we announced this Phase 2 proposal. I mean, I knew when we put this out to the community that the initial reaction was going to be mostly like what the hell is going on here, right? What this is not what we were expecting, right? And nobody in crypto likes increasing token supply in a surprising way for any reason, right? I mean, that's sort of part of the thinking woven into the crypto community. And so I knew the initial reaction was not going to be one of tremendous, overwhelming joy right out of the box. But I've been really impressed by the way the community has, been willing to open their minds to the reasoning presented and sort of come to grips, as those of us internal to SingularityNet Foundation have had to do. I mean, come to grips with the reality of the situation that SingularityNet faces, which, I mean, in some ways, for any small technology project competing against huge ones, it's always, a hard, cold reality to confront yourself with in some ways. And at the same time as, being really exciting adventure with a lot of wide open opportunity. So I've been really impressed with how the community by and large has been willing to sort of look at the hard, cold facts as well as, remain excited and enthusiastic about the amazingness of our mission and how great it can be once we pull off what we're working on. And not that everyone is going to vote yes on the proposal, which is what I'm encouraging everyone to do. I mean, it's a democracy, and in any real democracy, you don't get anonymity, right? I mean, that only occurs like the dictator of some banana republic always gets 100% of the vote. I mean, this is a genuine vote, and there's going to be some who are in favor and some who are opposed, and that's okay. And some who are opposed, I understand, really want what's good for the project. They just have a different point of view, and that's always going to be the way people are. Humanity is diverse, but I mean, it's great that so many people have been willing to sort of overcome their initial confusion and, in some cases, negative reaction, and come around to seeing the perspective that led us to put forth the proposal in the first place. And I mean, I think there's been some individuals in the community who actually changed their mind on the proposal in the course of discussing with other community members, and then myself, but also just others out there. And that's actually, it's a rare and precious thing, right? Like in US electoral politics, there's not a lot of reasoned mind changing that overcomes initial emotional reactions going on. And we're going to need a lot more of that in a lot of different ways as we move forward from here toward like actual AGI and singularity, right? And I mean, I think that's another takeaway for me, just seeing the reaction to the proposal in the community so far, is, even though most of the people who have bought AGI tokens, either in the original token generation event or for others later, I mean, most people have some financial interest in mind in doing that. It's not everyone who has purely come into the project because they love the mission that we're after, and because they want to save the AGI tokens they bought to get superhuman AGI services or practical narrow AI services on the platform. It's a reality that a lot of people have come into the SingularityNET and AGI community with personal, individual financial incentives in mind. Like that's clear. But that's not a bad thing. I mean, all of us need resources to live and support our families and so forth. I mean, I of course, that's all too obvious to need saying, but in spite of the financial aspect being there and real and worthy of attention, I mean, it's clear a lot of the community, vast majority of the community, at least who is discoursing publicly, is actually fundamentally interested in our core mission of beneficial decentralized AGI. I mean, to want to make money for yourself while working toward beneficial decentralized AGI, I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But it's really heartening to see so many people, fundamentally understanding the importance of the mission and passionate about the mission. I mean, seeing that, general intelligence is the most important technology that humanity will ever create. I mean, creating minds that are more intelligent than human minds, if it's done right, this AGI can solve every other problem that faces us. I mean, almost by definition, it's the most important thing we can do. I mean, even something foundational like, uplifting human consciousness. I mean, this can be done much better if we have an AGI that understands the human brain and human society better than we do, let alone resource scarcity and so forth. And beneficial AGI, I mean, most people want AGI to be beneficial to them. I think our community has a pretty wide realization that, the way to get AGI to be beneficial to you most likely is to get an AGI that's broadly beneficial to everyone. I mean, creating an AGI that just serves you and screws everyone else, I think, the downside of that is really, really obvious to anyone who's looked at human history whatsoever. And the benefit of decentralization to get to beneficial AGI. I mean, again, you know, it's tempting to think some elite organization who's smarter than everyone else and, you know, pure of soul and noble, the knights of AGI, you're going to somehow create an AGI which is better than the vast ugly mass of humanity, and they will just control it and launch in the world for everyone's good. I mean, it's tempting to think that, especially if you're thinking that you yourself are one of the white knights of AGI who's going to create super AGI for the good of the world. But I mean, again, human history and a basic study of human nature indicates there's really clear routes to failure there, whether just foolishness or overlooking things or corruption in the minds of the white knights of AGI, or, you know, maniacs kidnapping the families of the knights of AGI and threatening to torture them if they don't turn the AGI a different way. I mean, this sort of thing just doesn't work. I mean, in the same sense that benevolent dictatorships just don't work for a long time. They can work for a little while, but I mean, creating AGI is the most exciting and potentially beneficial, also the most serious and potentially dangerous thing that humanity will ever undertake. And putting that in the hands of something brittle like a dictatorship or some little elite is not good. I mean, doing it in a broadly decentralized way is also ugly and messy, because humanity, along with its beauty, is ugly and messy. But I mean, it's clearly is the most reliable way to get toward beneficial AGI. I mean, you can also look at it just in terms of the difficulty of the problem, right? I mean, this is a really, really hard problem. Building AGI is really hard. Dealing with human ethics is really hard. Organizing people is really hard. We want the widest variety of brain power possible focused on this, not just one company or one like secret elite government organization or programmers huddled in some high net worth individual's mansion, right? So I think, you know, I've said this sort of thing a lot of times. I'll keep on saying it until, you know, 98% of the world has understood it. But at least I think the majority of our community has understood it, which is great. And I think this democratic vote, with all its peculiarities and difficulties, and with the strangeness of, you know, the crypto style of voting, where it's like one token, one vote. In spite of all the oddities of this sort of vote, it is very much in the spirit of the decentralized aspect of SingularityNET's mission with beneficial decentralized AGI. I mean, we're decentralized is not just about the software infrastructure. Decentralized is about the human ecosystem and the human and software ecosystem sort of as they interpenetrate together. So I want to review the proposal itself briefly. I'm not that good at briefly, but I will try to review it briefly this time, and then go into the questions, which obviously is the most interesting thing. So, yeah, I'm sharing here before going into the proposal. I'm sharing. I'm not actually. Am I? No, I am.
Yeah, you're sharing successfully.
All right. Yeah, I had a bit of a Zoom glitch for a moment. Oh, yeah, so I'm sharing the voting UI. It's a very simple interface in itself, but you have to deal with MetaMask, which is nobody's favorite piece of software. But I mean, the instructions for doing this with MetaMask are relatively clear. You can go through it. I mean, a whole bunch of community members have already stated they voted on the Telegram group. So people have gotten through the MetaMask part and gotten it to function. I mean, the votes themselves are not being recorded one by one on the blockchain, which is because we didn't want to pay the gas cost, basically. But I mean, I mean, we will have the supervisory council audit the vote results carefully once they're done. And if there's some weird, if it were to happen that the vote was really, really close and there were weird issues with disqualified voters moving tokens among wallets or something, then we will open that up to the community and discuss it. I mean, if the vote isn't super close, there's going to be no issues like that. So we'll similar to with U.S. presidential elections, right? Most of the time it's clear. There's been a few recent elections where things were close and weird irregularities will happen. If that's the case here, we're going to be as open as possible about it. But there's 15 and a half hours left in the voting window. So, I mean, we left 4 days. That should be enough time for people to figure out MetaMask and get voting done. So I hope we're not dealing with people who are like, I was trying to vote in the very last minute and then my computer crashed or something. So, I mean, let's just, if you haven't voted already and you're a token holder, vote now. It's not actually necessary to push to the precisely last minute on this. And yeah, we will announce the results after we've carefully audited things. I mean, that's not going to take like weeks. If things are close and complicated, it could take days. I mean, the only thing that audit means really is, the main thing that could happen is we need to check that none of the crypto wallets that voted have been moving tokens out of those wallets after voting, because you don't want a situation where like some guy sets up 100 wallets and moves the same tokens from one to the other and just keeps voting. I mean, I doubt we're going to see that, so it should be a quick check if there's nothing weird that happened. So anyway, voting.singularitynet.io, the vote itself, really simple to do if you've used MetaMask before with the wallet that your AGI tokens are in, but it's not that hard to figure out otherwise. And yeah, so let me talk about the proposal itself very briefly and bring that one up here. Yeah, so here's the proposal. I apologize for the repetition for those who have been paying attention to the whole thing and are waiting for our answers to new questions. But I think there's going to be some folks watching this who haven't been following the whole thing closely. So I want to be sure to set the context. So we're putting a proposal out to vote of SingularityNet community. We need majority of voting tokens to say yes. So each token holder can vote, and you get a number of votes equal to the number of tokens that you hold. I mean, we had discussed in the original white paper doing a modified version of votings where the amount of votes you got was like a decreasing function of the number of tokens that you hold. So there's quadratic voting and logarithmic voting and so on. And you can see the point there, like if someone holds, 10 million tokens, should they really get 10 million times the vote if somebody who got one token, or should they get maybe just 100 times the vote or something, right? You could look at it a number of different ways, but we didn't. Here we wanted to keep it simple, partly because these more complex approaches, they have parameters to set in there. And I didn't want to have a situation where there was an outcome that was controversial because of some parameter that I or SingularityNet Foundation set. The other thing is, it's hard to do that sort of approach without doing KYC, because otherwise the guy who had 10 million tokens could just divide them up into 10 million wallets of one token or something, and then get more votes, right? So on the other hand, a lot of people in our community don't like KYC. In the long run, I think there's ways to do more flexible sorts of vote counting without KYC. Once you have, say, a sophisticated reputation system in place, you could give votes to each like wallet associated with a node in the network that has accumulated significant reputation or something. But anyway, here is one token, one vote for what it's worth. There's pluses and minuses, but it's simple and straightforward. I mean, when we look at the vote results, we'll also be able to see how many individuals voted for each thing, as well as how many tokens. And with one token per vote, there's not that much incentive for someone to artificially divide their vote among a lot of different wallets or something. So yeah, let me say something about the proposal. So there's a number of different aspects here. There's governance changes, which is increasing the role of the supervisory council, which is elected by the token holders to give them more of a solid oversight role. The supervisory council will supervise issuing a fully transparent financial report each year. We issued a financial report now covering the first 3 years. So now we're committing the SingularityNET Foundation will do that every year going on, and the supervisory council will help with that. And then supervisory council also can propose issues for voting by the token holders, and can review any hires at the executive level within the foundation. So we're looking at this as one more step along the progressive decentralization path. It's not fully decentralized, like full-on DAO, which I think is where, in the long term, SingularityNET needs to go. But it's one step there from what we've been doing the last few years since we founded the project in 2017, which is more of a fully SingularityNET Foundation centric. I mean, we've had some democratic votes so far, certainly, but it hasn't been as participatory in practice as we had hoped, and we're going in that direction now. So the other part is minting AGI tokens on Cardano platform, which we're informally calling AGI ADA now. That's not necessarily the ticker symbol, but that's a comprehensible term for it anyway. And we're proceeding with that. Like, even if this vote goes no, we're going to proceed with AGI ADA anyway. That may need a different vote then. If this is to go no, we'll make a more modest proposal involving AGI ADA and put that to the token holding community. I haven't thought through the details of that so far, because I'm really hoping and pushing that it's yes, because I think that's the best option. But I mean, we're doing the technical work already for AGI on ADA platform, and I mean, I think that's a good idea for reasons I'll touch on briefly here and have talked a lot about already. It gets a lot of extra oomph, however, if we proceed with the next part of this proposal, which is the part that's getting the most attention, which is, as well as creating AGI ADA as a technical thing and allowing porting of our AGI Ethereum tokens on the ADA platform, as well as that, we want to gradually mint 1 billion new AGI ADA tokens, not all at once. I mean, it's obvious it will be a very high risk endeavor just to like flood the market with 1 billion new AGI tokens on ADA, which are 1-to-1 convertible with Ethereum tokens. But month by month, over a long period of time, over the future, month by month, over 91 years, where you issue 15 million tokens at first, and then 1.5% less in the second month, 1.5% less in the third month, and monthly tranches decreasing by 1.5% each month. And again, I want to thank Jan from our SingularityNET Telegram groups. There was a preliminary version of this proposal that involved the billion new tokens in equal monthly tranches. And I think this exponentially decreasing schedule is significantly better, because I mean it keeps going and doesn't end. So we can see here the total token supply, not the same as circulating supply as normally calculated, which will be less at any point in time, because not all these tokens will have been put on the market. I mean, not all the existing AGI Ethereum tokens are on the market either. So this is like the total release tokens, and the blue shows the ERC20 tokens, some of which may be converted to Cardano in future. The red shows newly minted tokens. And as far as relation between ERC20 and ADA, you could look at it like silver dollar versus a paper dollar in the US or something. I mean, they have the same value. They have different purposes, right? I mean, some vending machines, old ones, you could drop a metal dollar in, but not a paper dollar. Now there's a lot of vending machines you can put a paper dollar, but not a metal dollar into, right? So I mean, they're one-to-one swappable, but they have different purposes, and I'll go into that in a moment. So how these new tokens will be utilized is, that's a complex story, and I'd encourage anyone who hasn't to look at the blog post on blog.singularitynet.io, where there's SingularityNet Phase 2 document that goes through everything we're talking about and planning in great detail, as well as a Phase 1 review document that gives a high-level financial report from SingularityNet Phase 1, and it's sort of a review of what's happened in the last 3 years, both financially, token management wise, and technically. But a very high level partial snapshot of what's planned. So half of it goes to SingularityNet Foundation, which is it's a nonprofit, and that will be spent incentivizing people to do work on SingularityNet platform. I mean, it's not like the foundation doesn't have shareholders, right? Like there's no shareholders to get these tokens. It's not like these are used to pay the founders and executives, except to a quite modest degree, along with paying developers to develop stuff on the platform, which is the vast bulk of it, right? So I mean, so the foundation has been funding development on SingularityNet platform using the AGI tokens from the initial token generation event that were allocated as foundation reserve, as the firepower for that. And that if we can continue that at a significant scale, such as this would entail, then we're moving full speed ahead. And I think that's what we really want to be doing. And decentralizing this development push is also very important. And the next 30% here is what we're calling the deep funding pool, which is much like Cardano's Voltaire/Catalyst funding project. And we're actually going to reuse their Catalyst software, customizing it for AGI ADA. So 30% of the new tokens released each month will be used for community development, right? So that means that community members, AGI token holders, will vote, and they will vote on which proposals put forth by the community get allocated in incentive tokens. And I mean, this should let a big variety of applications built on top of the platform, right? And so that's I think the foundation is going to be critical to building the core infrastructure, and that stuff I talked about in the last AMA and won't fully repeat. We talked about infrastructure as a service, so enabling the people to put sort of fleets of AI agents on SingularityNet and manage them with everything that you get in managing your AI agents on AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, and so forth. I mean, and then some core work on deep AGI tools like OpenCog Hyperon and how to integrate that with the whole platform, creating mechanisms for what we're calling Singularity Layer 2 networks that allow someone to build their own network, potentially with its own token, running on top of SingularityNET, and then paying a bit of a fee in AGI token, just like you pay currently way too much gas to run a layer 2 network on Ethereum, or a modest and reasonable fee to run a native asset network on Cardano. A layer 2 network running on SingularityNET can pay a little bit of AGI token and fee, but can have its own network and its own operation. So I mean, building the infrastructure for this sort of thing is best done by teams that are orchestrated by the foundation, because we know what we're doing by now in terms of this deep core work. But building different layer 2 networks, building all sorts of different vertical market applications, I mean, and adding new innovations to the core that we haven't thought of. This is going to be contributed best by a broad decentralized community. And we've tried to go in that direction a bit with the request for AI portal and the X Labs accelerator before. These things didn't take off like wildfire, to be honest. I think Cardano has got a really nice governance process for this there with the Catalyst platform, and I think that's going to go quite well. Let me roll through some of these others more quickly. So we want a liquidity pool to support fiat AGI gateway and potentially other initiatives going forward, and that's 5%. 5%. This is set aside for rewarding loyal token holders and loyal participants in the platform. So I mean, initially 5% of the tokens in each month will go to most of you watching this now, right? Which is AGI token holders, and we'll set a part of that for stakers who are staking now and who have been staking AGI Ethereum tokens, and set a portion of it aside just for every AGI token holder. And then we're considering and discussing other categories of super loyal token holder behind stakers. Say if someone has just held their tokens like a long time since the initial token generation event. I mean, we haven't been fully nailed down about how we're going to do this, because I'm trying to get a few different legal opinions. I mean, some legal counsel I've talked to are saying you have to KYC people to airdrop them tokens, but yet obviously some crypto projects now do that, many airdrop tokens without KYCing people, which is preferable from a lot of perspectives. So we're working through some particulars of this, but it is 5% to current token holders with some X within that 5%, those who have staked and possibly demonstrated long-term loyalty in other ways will get a bit more tokens than someone who just holds tokens but hasn't. And so that's I mean, there's questions why 5%, why not 50% or something. I mean, of course, if we just gave all the ADA tokens immediately to existing token holders, that would be great, but it wouldn't give anything for the deep funding pool or to incentivize development, right? So I mean, there's some balance we have to have here. We want to bring everyone into the ADA ecosystem with a boost, and we want to be show our respect and gratitude for those who've participated for a while. But I mean, we also want to do what the purpose of phase 2 is, which is to incentivize new development on platforms. So 3% to reputation wallet, and this is for curation reward. There's been some questions on Telegram about how this will work. I guess I'll just answer that while I'm staring at this here. So, I mean, I think the reputation system as a whole will emerge as a very, very important part of SingularityNet and of the crypto ecosystem more broadly. I mean, we've also talked to Cardano team about proof of reputation as, a possible future direction they could go for a consensus mechanism. That now Cardano has a lot of proof of stake, which is great. Proof of reputation in some ways is a step beyond that. And Cardano team is IOHK team is open to discussing potentially going that way internally within Cardano. But for now, within SingularityNet, we have a weighted liquid rank reputation system that we've prototyped, done a bunch of simulations of, where network participants rate other network participants, and there's some ability to rate each other's ratings, and for weights of for different ratings to be weighted differently, right? And I think this is it's an important thing to get right, and our simulation have shown that if you have rating together with some sort of payment and financial or economic reward, you get far more accurate rating. And it doesn't have to be that much, right? It's sort of like how you can prevent distributed denial of service attacks in a blockchain network by having just some small amount of fee or loan associated with each transaction, even if it's not a very big payment. Similarly, in a reputation system, just having even a relatively modest economic aspect to reputation ratings can have an outsized effect at calming down reputation fraud of various sorts. So the idea here is, like, if I think, say, Charles Hoskinson's reputation is going to be really good in future, I could stake some tokens on his reputation. Then if his reputation is good in future, then I'll get some reward, and the reward comes from this pool. Now, in that case, Charles's reputation is already very good, so the reward isn't great. Now, if I pick someone who nobody has ever heard of, or some AI agent who nobody has ever heard of, and stake my tokens on them, saying, like, this unknown computer vision AI service, right, or this unknown AI developer, I predict they're going to have a great reputation in future, and I'm willing to stake some tokens on that. Then, if I turned out to be correct, I would get more reward. And I think this sort of reputation staking in marketplace can be very valuable at presenting the pathology where you just have, like, a small number of highly reputable entities in a network, and no one else can break in. Like, if you look at Upwork or many of these work outsourcing systems online, you have systems with many stars, and, like, once a worker on Upwork gets a lot of stars, then their life on there is pretty good. They'll get a lot of customers, and new customers will give them more stars. But if you're just starting out and don't have any stars, you have to offer yourself at, like, slave wages for a long time before anyone will decide to use your services, and you can start to increase your ratings. So we try to design the reputation system to counteract that sort of dynamic, to make it easier for new players in the system to build up their reputations step by step. Because as we have a big and flourishing network, there's going to be a lot of computer vision providers, right? A lot of natural language question answering providers, a lot of meta learning AutoML providers on the back end. And you don't want there to be a lock-in of, like, 5 AutoML agents that help other ML agents optimize their operation. 5 of them have such a high rating, they're the only ones anyone ever uses, right? You want a dynamic that lets other new agents that may be better but aren't as reputable yet because they don't have as much experience behind them, you want a dynamic that lets the reputation get boosted. And I mean, that's how the reputation system is designed. And you want to have some pool of tokens behind it. Frankly, that first few months of phase 2, these tokens will be released and sit in the wallet because the reputation system won't be rolled out with the needed sophistication at that point. But I mean, that's fine. We don't need to. The tokens that are released and unlocked each month don't actually all need to be used that month, right? I mean, they can, when there's a great reason to use them, which will often be the case, you want to use them to incentivize development because we want to grow as fast as we can. But I mean, if there's a reason to wait until some development precondition is met, that can happen too. Then staking rewards pool and the stake tokens can then be used for a number of things. I mean, some of them can be added on to the liquidity pool behind the fiat AGI gateway, because I think until crypto becomes much more widely adopted than now, I mean, to get the level of token utilization that we're aiming for, this is going to have to be mostly coming through fiat crypto gateways. So we'll need, the 5% liquidity pool definitely, and that will be the initial use of the staking based liquidity pool also, where the stakes are then incentivized by these rewards. Sophia DAO is sort of a special project. I mean, there's a bunch of layer 2 networks, and most of this we're looking at to be incentivized by deep funding pools or externally, just revenue driven. But the Sophia DAO is one layer 2 network that we're sort of wiring into the guts here. This is it's a partnership with Hanson Robotics. And I mean, this is, going back to the 2017, when we first started SingularityNET, Sophia and Hanson Robotics was part of it. We were looking at Sophia as the sort of the human face of SingularityNET in a way. And, there was a lot to be gained from that, because the Sophia and the other humanoid Hanson robots have a profound way of, reaching out to people's hearts, even if they're not highly technical or into AI. I mean, these robots have had just an incomparable way, like nothing I've seen, of sort of waking up people's minds to the potential of benevolent general intelligence. Not so much necessarily in a scientific way, but in a human and artistic way. And I mean, that's a testament to the genius of our SingularityNET co-founder, David Hanson, really. I mean, I led the software team behind Sophia when I was working at Hanson Robotics before founding SingularityNET, but it's really David's sort of artistic, philosophical, ethical vision here. And I wanted to be sure that will continue. I mean, we didn't work with Sophia as much in 2019 and early 2020 with the Awakening Health Project. We've been powering into Hanson Robotics stuff again really hard. The Grace robot, like Sophia's little sister, is powered by OpenCog software running on SingularityNET platform. But yeah, the aim of Sophia DAO is to make sure that the SingularityNET based software we're making for the Grace robot, that gets opened up with some medical domain specific stuff saying just in Awakening. It gets opened up and it gets rolled out generally for Sophia and any other humanoid robots capable to use it. I mean, not specific to Hanson Robotics hardware, because this will be open source software. But we want to be sure we don't see another lull in the involvement of Sophia as the human face of SingularityNET, and having tokens to incentivize community development on that is going to be highly valuable. And then for the supervisory council, I mean, we want to start paying the council members something, not all of this. We don't need 1.5% of the tokens just to pay what's currently 3 people, but to support the supervisory council and associated democratic governance mechanisms. Like, I mean, we need to customize the portal, the Catalyst portal for deep funding for AGI, and our requirements were a little different than Cardano's Voltaire program. But I mean, there's a lot of research and innovation that has to be done by our community in cooperation with those of us in the foundation. A lot that needs to be done in terms of new and better democratic governance mechanisms also. I mean, there's a lot that we're still sort of exploring and pioneering here. So yeah, that's a brief rundown. I mean, in the last AMA, I went over more, but I've already been going a super long time. So what I went over last time and haven't gone over this time was the specific SingularityNET layer 2 networks that we're looking at, and sort of why we think they're going to drive, literally trillions of AI API calls on SingularityNET network by 4 or 5 years from now. So I went over in a little more detail the logic of why we project trillions of API calls from Singularity DAO, from the Grace robot, from Rejuve, NuNet, Accelerando, and Singularity Studio, various projects built on top of SingularityNet, along with projects that others will build on top of SingularityNet. I also went over last time more of the pluses to Cardano as opposed to Ethereum. I mean, the low cost, high speed, provable security, its amenability to sophisticated things like an AI DSL for AIs in the network to communicate with each other, and for supporting easy integration of multi-party computing, homomorphic encryption into SingularityNet. So these pluses of Cardano, just as a technical platform, ensuing from its Haskell-based smart contract language, Plutus, and ensuing from just the, incredibly high quality of the software architecture and engineering and mathematical thinking behind Cardano. I went over all that last time. That's also in the phase 2 document. So now, all right, this is going to be another 2-hour AMA. Once my mouth starts running, I lose track of time. Let me go into some questions. I'll start with some that came up on the list in the last couple days, which are not that different than what I addressed before, but with slightly different flavor to it. So there's a bunch of sort of crypto libertarians who are saying, well, this isn't printing more tokens bad? I mean, isn't that just what the US Fed does? Like, how can you promote that? And I mean, I get this point of view, certainly, and the way Bitcoin operates with a limited number and a prefigured mechanism and schedule without a human element in there. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. Bitcoin is incredible, and I have bought Bitcoin at some points in the past and have never sold any. Right? I mean, I'm definitely I see the value that you get from a fixed collection of tokens, and I also see U.S. government printing more and more money, coupled with U.S. military power to enforce its hegemony. I mean, this is in large part an exploitative strategy for extracting wealth from the rest of the world, right? I mean, and the U.S. is not the only guilty ones there. I mean, Chinese government, of course, heavily manipulates their money supply, right? I mean, Europe has done so less just because they're not well enough organized to, I think. So I mean, I get all that. I think, you know, a small project with a particular focus like SingularityNET is a different thing. I mean, SingularityNET expanding supply in a measured way, that's a strategy for maximizing the odds of growth of the AI network and not getting squashed by, you know, Google and Microsoft, which you know, they have released new stock many times during their growth period. So I mean, being the king like the US, you know, you don't really need to print more money. There's a lot of other avenues available for the US to grow and flourish without exploitation. And Bitcoin, it's great. It's a store of value and a medium of exchange. I mean, the Bitcoin network isn't designed to foster the building of something huge like beneficial decentralized general intelligence. So it just has different goals, and it's beautifully configured to achieve its goals, right? I mean, for SingularityNet's goals, you know, originally we were thinking of a fixed token supply, but we, for reasons I discussed a lot in the last AMA, I mean, we hadn't anticipated the crypto winter or the coronavirus, but we did want to be able to use the development pool of the originally issued tokens to keep development moving forward quickly, which I think we have done, and we built a lot of cool stuff. I mean, given the shit that reality threw at us, I mean, the best course to actually fulfill our mission at this point is to mint new tokens. It's impure in a sense relative to what we originally wanted, but I mean, that's humanity. I mean, Bitcoin is a beautiful thing. It's also impure in some ways. I mean, in reality, Bitcoin and Ethereum economies are controlled by a fairly small number of whales, including some individuals and organizations we probably don't want really controlling the cryptocurrency economy so much, right? So I mean, putting stuff in the real world, you never can keep the ultimate beautiful purity of your vision. Like the only way to keep things beautiful and pure and perfect is to keep them in your head as ideas and not do them, right? So I mean, I think there is some compromise of the purity of what we proposed in 2017, but I mean, something that's a little less pure and actually radically transforms the world for the better is just that's what we want, right? I mean, you got to look at the reality as well as the pure principles and see, like, how can we stick as close to our principles as possible while achieving our vision in the real world, right? And I mean, that's what we're looking at doing here. And I put a lot of thought and frankly a lot of like emotional agonizing before deciding this was the best direction to go in. And I'm finally just like, well, you know, there's good and bad aspects here. There's many ways to do it, but you know, do we really want to achieve AGI in a beneficial, decentralized way or not? Like if we do, like literally there can be no scarcity on Earth, right? Literally there can be no mental illness. There can be no death, right? I mean, they can get rid of violence on the planet. Like the upside is incredible in the long term. And I mean, if you have to do some things that were different than you originally planned in the, you know, tokenomic and economic underpinnings of your project to get there, I mean, that seems like what you have to do. I mean, I want to be very respectful, and I'm very grateful to everyone who has bought AGI tokens and supported the project. And I want everyone who has bought an AGI token to do really, really, really well, right? I mean, those who have held on to the tokens anyway. But I mean, at the same time, we have to figure out how to do that while achieving our mission, right? And achieving the mission is very important and is not very easy, right? So I mean, it's hard enough to do if we do have these new incentive tokens proposed in phase 2. If we don't have the new incentive tokens proposed in phase 2, I'm going to keep working toward the mission. I mean, I'm going to keep working toward this mission. If I, I become a quadriplegic and lose half of my brain in a car crash, I mean, this is the most important thing we can do. But if we can do it, in a better way that positions us better for success, I mean, that's the most rational thing in terms of working toward the mission, and that's why this is proposed. So, all right, let me more explicitly plunge into questions here. I mean, I've actually answered a bunch of questions that have been posed already, but let me explicitly go through some. So, an often answered question is, okay, what about airdrops from spin-offs of SNET Foundation to AGI token holders? So this has been asked like 50 times on various Telegram groups. So not COVID, just some coffee stuck in my throat. At least I don't think so. I still got my sense of smell. I think I'm all right. Current plan is 5% of any sort of appropriately configured tokens from spinoffs of SingularityNET Foundation will be airdropped to AGI token holders. And what I mean by appropriate tokens, like if you look at Singularity DAO, there's Singularity DAO governance token, and that's fine to airdrop 5% of those governance tokens. There's tokens called Dynasets within Singularity DAO. I mean, the Dynasets, these are like ETFs. They're baskets of altcoins, right? So, I mean, you can't airdrop 5% of those ETFs to AGI token holders without actually like buying the underlying altcoins inside each of those Dynasets and then giving it to AGI token holders, which is like a cash outlay up front, right? Because these altcoins are not ours; they're out there in the market. So, I mean, tokens. The beauty of tokens is they're very broad, right? Tokens can have a lot of different logics to them. Some tokens, by their nature, it doesn't make sense to airdrop them. For those that it does make sense, we're dropping them to AGI token holders in the magnitude of 5%. And I mean, this is just good business and good sense, basically, because we have an amazing SingularityNET community. We want to pull the community into these new spin-offs, and this is a time-tested way to do it. We will give, initially at least, we'll give stakers a bit extra, so the airdrop doesn't have to be exactly the same amount for every token holder. We can airdrop a little more to folks who have been staking on the platform and so forth. And yeah, I'm working through sort of compliance stuff to see if there's any way we can do all these airdrops without KYCing people. I mean, nobody likes KYC. Of course, our original token generation event required KYC. Sometimes you have to do it, but we're going through that now. Another question: why make AGI, ADA, and ERC20 the same thing? Like, why not just leave the ERC20 tokens as they are and just make a bunch of new ADA tokens and airdrop some of the new ADA tokens to ERC20 holders? I mean, we actually did think of this, but I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do things, but I mean, it seemed like I don't honestly see a big future for the Ethereum version of SingularityNET Marketplace in the future. I mean, Ethereum, that's where most DeFi is now. So Singularity DAO will be dealing a lot with Ethereum. But in terms of an AI agent marketplace, the AI DSL, which fits naturally with Plutus on Cardano, I mean, this will let This will make it easier for AI agents in the Cardano version of the marketplace to outsource work to each other and communicate and automatically cooperate with each other. This is a really important and beneficial thing, right? So I don't want to dilute effort by like struggling to get to work on Ethereum slowly, expensively, and awkwardly. Things will work much better on Cardano. So if we did this and just left ERC20 tokens as they are and made new Cardano tokens, assuming not much work goes into the marketplace on Ethereum, and that may even get the marketplace in Ethereum might get sunsetted even if the ERC20 token is still there. I mean, the code is not going to go away, but whether we put any effort into operating it is a different question. I mean, then in that case, the ERC20 token would just be like a pure, like self-perpetuating trading ecosystem, right? So it becomes like Ethereum Classic or Bitcoin SV or something, which are not to be honest, my favorite cryptocurrencies. Although I mean, there's good people involved with all of them. We really don't want to just create this like zombie AGI ERC20 token. So I mean, if you take a developer view of it, like look forward 5 years from now, we have Ethereum, Cardano, Algorand, all these things are still around. Say many of them are faster and cheaper. They're each, maybe Cardano is by far the best. That's my guess. Maybe there's some stuff that works better on Algorand, or some stuff that works better on Elrond or on Conflux or some other Ethereum layer 2 network or whatever it is. So we're really looking at SingularityNET to be a protocol that can overlay and work with all of these. And I mean, one of the things in our development roadmap is, can we make the marketplace and platform blockchain agnostic at a more fundamental level, so you don't need to build a whole different marketplace to operate on each different blockchain. I mean, initially the Cardano version of the marketplace will just be a Cardano version, but moving toward easier interoperability is interesting. And I mean, if you make like walled garden AGI tokens in different blockchains, not allowing seamless swapping, I mean, you're like locking people down within one blockchain. And I mean, I think it's actually a worse architecture, right? So I mean, I think having swappability is a better architecture in the long run. In the short run, keeping the Ethereum token as a walled garden would just make it a zombie token, like ETH Classic or Bitcoin SV or something. In the long run, if you had two like walled garden AGI systems that both work, you just have inferior interoperability, and it's it's bad, right? I mean, there would be some short-term advantages in doing it that way, but I think it's not the right way to do it. And one thing I really love about the Cardano ecosystem is, Charles Hoskinson brought to it from the beginning the ethos, like, let's build this shit right? Let's actually do this the way it should be done and the way it needs to be done. And if we build everything right, I mean, then we're going to ultimately get more traction, and we're going to get more value into our network. And I think the phase 2 proposal is doing things right technically, and it's doing things right economically for the medium to long term also. Okay, other questions. I got to keep my answers shorter here. Question: how do the various SingularityNET associated projects fit together with the aim of creating benevolent AGI? How do the layer 2 projects interplay? Well, they interplay on the back end more than you'd think from the front end. Like Singularity DAO and Rejuve look different, but I mean, Rejuve is collecting heart rate variability data from people, which is time series data, and Singularity DAO is looking at time series of altcoin prices. It can be the same AI agent doing time series analytics, right? So I mean, the projects all interoperate on the back end. They can also interoperate in more obvious ways, like say Awakening Health uses robots running on SingularityNet in the back end in elder care facilities, whereas Rejuve is, helping people to monitor their body state and rewarding them with tokens for the medical data they upload. I mean, here, you could have Rejuve apps used by the same elderly people who are interacting with the Grace robot, right? So I mean, you have some actual end user interactions, interplay, but a lot of back end interplay. Question: what's the role of OpenCog Hyperon in the story? Are there efforts to make it as accessible and prominent as TensorFlow, PyTorch, and so forth are? Well, OpenCog Hyperon, I'm thinking the new version of OpenCog can serve as sort of the cognitive cortex, the central cerebral cortex of the global brain we're building on SingularityNet, right? I mean, you can have a lot of narrow AIs, a lot of AIs doing highly specific things, a lot of cool applications. Just like the brain has visual cortex, has motor cortex, has parts that are recognized for smell or for language processing, for recognizing emotion. The human brain also has parts that are specialized for abstract reasoning and abstract thinking, like for the hard stuff that people do and monkeys don't do, right? So Hyperon is a strong candidate for being like the abstract cognitive cerebral cortex of the whole SingularityNet decentralized AI mind. And of course, this is an open platform. It could be that someone launches something better than Hyperon that becomes the cerebral cortex of the platform, and then beautiful. I'll take beneficial decentralized AGI no matter where it comes from, right? But anyway, Hyperon is the next version of OpenCog that I've been working on since 2001 with a bunch of colleagues, and we're rebuilding the whole infrastructure to modernize it while keeping the AI algorithms and math sort of as they have been with some new improvements. I think putting it together with SingularityNet infrastructure as a service, we're going to get a massively scalable OpenCog Hyperon version. We're going to see a leap in that in the next few years, similar to the leap we saw in computer vision, say from 2014 to 17, or in natural language processing from 2018 to 20. I think the next leap is going to be in AGI driven by OpenCog Hyperon's integration of neural nets, reasoning, evolutionary learning. And the way this will achieve scalability is in large part by integration with SingularityNet platform and all its infrastructure. So that's it. It doesn't have to succeed for SingularityNet to succeed. Hyperon could prove totally worthless, and SingularityNet still gets trillions of API calls and launches AGI. But I mean, I think it's nice to have a concrete and highly promising approach to general intelligence integrated with SingularityNet, right? All right, I could talk about that all day, obviously, but how will I be able to buy AGI Ada after the transition? Well, we're in discussion with a number of DEXs about Cardano native assets generally. So I mean, I'm into decentralized exchanges, but I mean, I know Cardano, IOHK is also having conversations with some centralized exchanges. I'm not dealing with that part about Cardano native assets generally. This will likely be the first Cardano native asset out there, maybe followed by some SingularityNet layer 2 native assets. But yeah, I think definitely there's a bunch of DEXs who are psyched to expand into native assets. And I mean, that ties in with Singularity DAO, which is trying to make a sort of rational and AI-driven DeFi ecosystem on top of altcoins traded on DEXs. So I mean, having AGI Ada and then any Singularity layer 2 tokens on decentralized exchanges is going to fit in with Singularity DAO really well. When does phase 2 launch? I mean, we're looking at second quarter of this year. I mean, we need Cardano native assets to launch, which is slated for March right now. I mean, there will be different pieces launched in phases, right? We can launch the token first, then we can launch the marketplace and the Catalyst deep funding pool on ADA a bit after that. A few questions about staking now. Will the allocation for staking from the newly issued tokens be only for AGI ADA? Yeah, that's for AGI ADA. We don't anticipate converting this, swapping them to Ethereum and using them to incentivize Ethereum token staking. We could if there was a reason to later on, but the plan is AGI ADA. Okay. Why did you run the vote just before the end of the stake? I want to liquidate my tokens if the vote is yes. No, I have to wait till the end of the staking period. Well, end of the staking period is February 12th, I think. So as it has happened, token price on markets is doing all right anyway. So I mean, but the basically, we decided to run the vote when the time seemed right in terms of our progress with IOHK and Cardano. I mean, we're going to work with them anyway, and we're going to make AGI ADA, whether or not this vote goes yes. We're going to proceed with a bunch of these things, but a lot of the particulars of what we can do with Cardano, they're going to be different depending on whether the vote goes yes or not. I mean, we can proceed more full speed ahead on SingularityNET Cardano integration if we get a yes vote. And so we wanted to know as soon as we could whether the vote is yes or not, because if it is yes, we want to start racing ahead in terms of this collaboration. If the vote is no, I mean, we're pushing forward toward our mission. We're still partnered with IOHK and Cardano, but we're going to need to sort of rethink how to do things. And if we're going to need to rethink how to do things in a foundational way, we want more time to do that rethinking also. So I mean, it's just from an internal development point of view, it's just better to go as fast as we can, which is what phase 2 is about, building value for everyone in the ecosystem as fast as we can, or to know as soon as we can that we're not going to be able to go fast, and to just think best about the right way to maximize odds of achieving our mission anyway. I mean, staking is staking, right? I mean, you're putting your stake in the ground. You're getting some reward, and you're giving up the ability to sell for a while. And we're all adults here, and we all know that. And I mean, staking window ends a long time before the first AGI ADA token will be minted, right? A long time before any changes to the token supply happen. So I mean, yeah, that's been our own orientation. We're really just focused on moving forward as fast and as well as we can. So yeah, many people have asked, does AGI ADA token exist if there's a no vote? It still exists. There just won't be as many of them. They'll come into existence by conversion from the ERC20 token, and we'll need to go back to the drawing board and plot the best growth strategy that we can. But I mean, we're going to push forward no matter what, but I strongly encourage everyone to vote yes, because I strongly believe that's the best way for us to get massive utilization of the platform. And getting massive utilization of the platform, I mean, that's how we're going to get to beneficial decentralized AGI. I mean, that's also, as it happens, the best route to the exchange rate of the AGI token to going up. I mean, Bitcoin is going up just based on pure store of value activity and trading activity. But I mean, that's not what AGI token was designed for. AGI token was designed to incentivize development on the platform, and its value is going to go up if there's a lot of utilization. This value is unlikely to go up if there's not a lot of utilization. The utilization is more likely to come with phase 2, because then we will have sufficient tokens to incentivize the next phase of of development. We'd originally thought the billion ERC20 tokens would be enough, but our plan didn't incorporate crypto winter and coronavirus. We could have managed Treasury and SingularityNET Foundation better in hindsight, which might have removed the need for this new offering. We didn't. Like we are where we are, and we're trying to figure out the best way to return maximal value for everyone and for humanity. Is Cardano community funding the building of SNet on the platform, or is it us, the small cap community, funding the building on the platform? It's a mix, actually. I mean, Cardano IOHK, as Charles Hoskinson noted on our SingularityNET community Telegram group, IOHK has actually provided some grant to SingularityNET Foundation already to support development of the AI DSL and to support some of our technical work on the token port. So they have actually helped with some financial support for the foundation. I can't discuss the exact amount now. And I mean, with the Catalyst and Voltaire, I mean, that right now is not that much money, but that funding pool within Cardano is supposed to double with each round. So that's going to be a lot of money. That can be used to fund SingularityNet related projects as well, along with the deep funding pool, right? I mean, you may see a dynamic where, like, really early stage SingularityNet based projects are funded via deep funding. Then once they're out there on Cardano already and they need to grow and add more features, maybe they get funded by Voltaire, by Cardano's pool, right? So I mean, sort of like seed round and A round in conventional startup funding world. So I mean, I think it's going to be a combination of incentive AGI tokens and then other forms of cooperation and financial support coming out of the whole Cardano ecosystem. I think it's both. We're building a whole new funding ecosystem here. We're cooperating together. And I mean, by the way, while I love Cardano, it could be that 5 years from now, SingularityNet is the large cap and is even bigger than Cardano. I mean, they're both amazing things with huge potential. Question: is it possible to move every token holder over to ADA tokens and remove the ERCs? Interoperability is important, but there's a lot of ways to achieve it. So sure, I mean, in future, we could end up with like one AGI token, AGI ADA, and then make wrapped versions of AGI ADA on various other platforms, right? I mean, that's entirely possible. I mean, that's an option for the future. And I mean, we're open to future votes to make future fundamental changes and improvements. I think for now, the current way is best because there's a lot of interesting stuff happening on Ethereum that doesn't exist on Cardano yet, like so much of the DeFi ecosystem. So it's not while Ethereum on a technical basis is profoundly inferior to Cardano, and I think it always will be because its fundamental design has just a lot of core weaknesses, which I don't see the Ethereum 2 proposal as even planning to remedy. I mean, even so, there's a lot of DeFi and NFT traction. There's a lot of interesting stuff on Ethereum now. So I mean, there's still reasons to have Ethereum tokens at this point. Do we want question about staking incentives? Do we want SingularityNet staking incentives to mirror staking incentives in projects like Chainlink agents or the Graph agents, so that SingularityNet becomes a crucial piece of middleware within all the blockchains? Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I need to. Honestly, I don't know that much about how staking incentives work in Chainlink, but we have been talking, in depth to the Chainlink guys in the context of figuring out the best way to use Chainlink within Singularity DAO, and also other ways that AI might be useful within Chainlink. So that conversation with Chainlink is going on. It hasn't been. I haven't talked about how they're doing staking, but we're interesting for the discussion. Certainly open to thinking about it. Some questions on the vote itself. Is the foundation under a conflict of interest to vote? I don't see a conflict of interest. It's a very well-aligned interest. I mean, the foundation is a nonprofit working toward beneficial decentralized AGI. It's not like the foundation is a company with shareholders who are getting a percent of these tokens that are minted or something. I mean, actually, I think the foundation has the most clearly aligned interest with the growth of the project. I mean, except for perhaps me, it's I mean, both the foundation, myself, a bunch of other co-founders who have been holding our AGI tokens since the beginning. I mean, we're just in this to create beneficial decentralized AGI. A lot of our community is as well. Some of the community has come in purely for speculative purposes. So I mean, which is in a way a conflict of interest with the mission. So yeah, I think it's not a problem. It's also the case the foundation, while it has like 45 million tokens at this point, I have like 15 million tokens. I mean, so that's not a majority of the billion tokens that exist, right? So I mean, it's not a fake election where the foundation and me can just railroad through what we want, and the election is a sort of puppet show. Why didn't we have longer to consider this vote? We certainly thought about it. Just crypto world moves fast. I want to make the AGI ADA native asset launch incredible. I want to be able to move really quickly, like for us to be the first native asset, and to pull the whole Cardano community into helping make both Cardano and AGI on Cardano as valuable as possible. And it just seemed like there's a unique opportunity with the initial launch of Cardano native asset to be, wrapped up in there as the first asset launch, and to put as much oomph behind that as possible. And that's just better to do with a yes vote. So I'm just wanting to move quickly. Like, Google and Microsoft and Amazon, Facebook, these guys are moving as fast as they can. Like Mark Zuckerberg said, move fast and break things. I mean, I don't want to break things, but I do want to move as rapidly as I can, and I'm not afraid to make a few mistakes along the way, as long as they're in a way that we can repair them as we keep going forward. If there's a no vote, can we have a revote after non-believers sell? Yeah, I mean, we could have a revote a year from now. We could have a revote with a modified proposition like a month from now, for that matter. I mean, democracy is crazy sometimes, right? I mean, if there's a no vote, there's going to be some intensive discussion with the community on why. My hope is that folks who voted no will be open about what their real concerns are, and there may be another way to do things that achieves our goals not quite as well, but still helps, right? So, but I think we have momentum now, right? The crypto markets are very propitious as ever. Like Bitcoin is fucking $40,000. I mean, we're in a very good time now. The crypto markets are doing well. Cardano native assets is about to launch with us as the first one. I mean, I think golden opportunities aren't always there. I mean, we had a great opportunity when we did the initial token generation event with SingularityNET. Then there's a long time in the crypto markets when it was a hard time to do anything exciting just because sentiment wasn't there, right? I mean, I think now the sentiment is there, the momentum is there, both in Cardano with native assets and in the crypto markets on the whole. So I think things are lining up for amazing growth. And I mean, dilution by 1.5% and then less of the percentage of AGI tokens that a given person holds. So this measured increase of the token supply. I mean, this is a serious thing, which is why we're doing a vote and having in-depth discussion on it. But I mean, that rate of token supply expansion it's nothing compared to the growth that we've seen in AGI token price in the last month. It's nothing compared to what's happening with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it's nothing compared to the value growth that we can see happening, during the next 6 months if we're able to push forward in a sort of full on and non-constrained way. I mean, there's always constraints in reality, but the constraints will not be as tight with phase 2, and having a little more wiggle room on the token side to incentivize development is really going to let us make use of this opportunity a lot better. So yeah, there. Question: can't the team find ways to create utility without giving away more tokens, without doing votes? Yeah, of course, but they're going to be slower. Google and Microsoft are moving fast. I mean, there's a problem with democracy, right? Democracy is less efficient than dictatorship. And I mean, if SingularityNET was a dictatorship, I would just say, yes, we want to do this thing with AGI Ada, boom. And I would be working on the technical parts of that rather than having all these AMAs and long discussions, and we would be moving faster, right? I mean, that's the reality. Democracy slows things down somewhat just by nature. The hope is that while it slows things down, it can move you in a better direction, because fast movement in the wrong way isn't always right, and the bringing in more voices who feel more engaged and empowered in the ecosystem, that helps you move in a better direction, even if it adds a lot of friction. So I'm hoping that the frictional cost of doing this vote and discussing these things over and over, that's something. But if the vote goes yes, which is my hope, then I mean we're going to be able to still move rapidly in accordance with our democratic process and decentralized vision. Question: why can't we do this year by year? If the projected growth becomes a reality, I'll be more on board. We could do that. I think token holders can always stop this also, right? I mean, with 51% of votes, token holders can end the new token issuance if it seems not to be going well. I guess my thinking is, from the point of view of folks who are buying tokens for future use and thinking about the future value of the token, I mean, my thinking is that this ongoing plan makes clear that there's an ongoing commitment in the part of the community to incentivizing development on the platform, which should increase people's estimate of the future value of SingularityNET. So, I mean, my view is that if we said this was going on for 1 year and then you need approval each time, as opposed to saying it's going on for 91 years, but the community can stop it when they want. My feeling is the second route, which is the one we're pushing forward with the phase 2 proposal. The second route will give a higher evaluation by third parties of the value of the network, not a lower one, because the value of the growth rate of demand for the token is higher in the second course. So anyway, I mean, that's our thinking. So yeah, why? A lot of questions saying the same thing in different forms. Why can't the project advance fast without minting more tokens? Does adoption depend on increasing number of tokens? Well, no, intrinsically it doesn't. The point is that further development is still needed in order to make something that's competitive with big tech AI platforms and better than big tech AI platforms. And given that more development is needed, more tokens to incentivize development will help. I mean, building AI on centralized platforms is easier from a technical standpoint. So we're already like trying to run a race on 1 foot while the others are going on 2 feet. If you're trying to beat the competition who's running while hopping on one foot, but you also don't have as much food to eat as the guys who are running. I mean, you're making things, you're putting more and more challenges there. I mean, I think we have a great community, we have a great technical design, we have a great business plan now with these layer 2 networks, but we need more incentive tokens to incentivize development and move quickly. I mean, otherwise there's substantial risk of being overtaken by centralized AI run by trillion-dollar companies, which can issue, new shares when they want to. Not that shares are the same as tokens, but I mean, the point is they're centralized and they have the flexibility to do what they want, right? And I mean, I would note also, I mean, Ethereum and Bitcoin, all these tokens based on mining have gradual increase of token supply, right? I mean, you could look at the chart of how Ethereum and Bitcoin's supply is going to be increasing gradually over time. So that, honestly, I wish we'd done SingularityNet that way in the first place. In 2017, I wish we had already made it so there would be gradual amount released over time rather than all at once as was done. I mean, EOS, while not my favorite project on a technical level, I mean, it's okay, but I mean, EOS did not one token generation event, but a series of them, and that wasn't as gradual as Ethereum and Bitcoin or SingularityNet Phase 2, but more in that direction. So I mean, I think there's wisdom to these gradual releases. We should have done SingularityNet as a gradual release in the first place. We didn't. We did the best we could at that point in time. We've had a lot more time to think about tokenomics since then. So I think both Phase 2 and all the Layer 2 projects are a lot more sophisticated in terms of tokenomics than SingularityNet originally was, just because we've learned a lot. We've done a lot of simulation modeling of different tokenomic systems. We've seen what worked and didn't work in the world in the last few years. I mean, our understanding is maturing along with the whole ecosystem. Cardano question. Cardano is very strong in publishing research. Are you going to? Yeah, I mean, Cardano IOHK has done wonders by partly incentivizing academics to collaborate with their internal team on research. And it's been largely the academics who have written papers, because the internal team is focused on building shit, right? And that's the same as us. So we could have published hundreds of papers on OpenCog Hyperon, semantic vision, neurosymbolic dialogue, personalized medicine, agent-based modeling for COVID, AI for signal processing for health, like simulation modeling of altcoin markets, homomorphic encryption, right? I mean, governance schemes. We've just frankly been trying to build open source code and figure out how to make stuff work rather than spending time writing papers. But I think the deep funding pool can be our friend here, because that's open to academics as well as to developers. And if a PhD student wants deep funding grant to help with the AGI processing time, and then some with their own incentivization, for if they want incentivization to help with a research collaboration oriented toward publishing, building an open source code that's already there, we'll be super happy to collaborate with them. So I do think that's good, and figuring out how to work with academia on that is important. I mean, I also think that building stuff is even more important, right? But we want to do both, and we should, with deep funding, have a pool to help pull in academia along with the open source community. All right, let me look at more questions that have come in on the list now in the last hour and a half. Have we played with Cardano's newest update this week? I haven't, but our Bangalore SingularityNet platform team has. I've done like zero technical work in the last week due to being involved with the various SingularityNET phase 2 based stuff plus management meetings. So this is one of the things I'm hoping to do in the next year is beef up the senior management team in the foundation a little bit. I mean, we want a CFO to help us, do a better job with treasury going forward with these new tokens and then fiat crypto gateway and so forth. There's some subtle stuff there, and COO or something similar to help coordinate management will be very nice, because I would like to have gotten to play with the new like AGI Ada like native token faucet, because there is on testnet there's a native token faucet now that our team is playing with, and I have not honestly looked at it whatsoever. Here's a cool question. Would it be possible to create a decentralized social network that maximizes the Buddhist Eightfold Path and learns how to help people toward enlightenment? Well, on the platform, certainly would be, and that's a beautiful example of something to be funded by the deep funding pool, right? I mean, we did the Loving AI project using SingularityNET, not rather using OpenCog. There was some sort of private chain SingularityNET stuff on the back of that, actually. Anyway, we did a project called Loving AI using Sophia Roba as a meditation and consciousness expansion assistant, which was cool. But yeah, I think making a social network aimed at consciousness expansion in general, whether it's the Buddhist Eightfold Path specifically, is great. I mean, I did this whole podcast with Charles Hoskinson on decentralized social media and SingularityNET and Cardano, right? And I mean, the way I'm thinking about that is, I mean, I don't aspire to build the next TikTok or Facebook or whatever it is. Of course, if I had a brilliant idea for a social network like UX, I would put it out there. But what we want to do is build the infrastructure tools so that, like, when some brilliant teenagers or brilliant, senior citizens or whoever it is comes up with the idea for the next amazing social network, it's not that big a project for them to put it together on Cardano plus SingularityNET infrastructure. Like, the decentralized AI is there, the secure decentralized messaging is there. Like, you want all the decentralized tools to be there. So if someone wants to build like a consciousness expansion oriented social network, we want them not to have to go through all the pain and suffering we've done and IOHK has done to build these decentralized tools. Otherwise, they'll be facing the choice like, well, I can make my Buddhist Eightfold Path social network decentralized, or I can make it on centralized infrastructures. And if I do it decentralized, it's going to take me 10 times as long and cost 10 times as much. Well, then they sort of have to decide to make it centralized, even if they like decentralized better. So we need to provide the decentralized tools to make it possible for these things to be developed, quickly and inexpensively on decentralized platforms. And yeah, I think it's going to happen. Like, I think there's a tipping point where enough like regular civilians are fed up with centralized social networks and their sort of unethical, insane, and inappropriate control over our minds and lives, right? That people are actually opening their minds to decentralized alternatives. So I really want our deep funding pool and Cardano's catalyst pool to be incentivizing development in these areas. Are AGI ADA utility tokens and AGI ADA swap from ERC20 the same tokens? Yeah, they're the same. They're the same tokens. There won't be. there won't be any difference between the tokens. The same utility on the platform and the same exchange value. How long will be the window period of swapping tokens? I mean, according to the plan put forward for vote now, swapping tokens will always be possible. I mean, there could be another vote that makes things different, but I mean, the idea is AGI ERC20 and AGI ADA both exist. You can always swap back and forth. When AGI ADA is created, will there be an AGI to fiat gateway with high liquidity, avoiding having to use exchanges? I mean, the fiat crypto gateway we're creating is really for buying services on the platform. So an end user can use regular money and get service, which can already be done with PayPal, but you want different ways. And so an AI provider on the platform can get paid in regular money without needing to deal with crypto if they don't want to. I mean, I'd rather the whole economy ran on crypto, but we don't want to wait for that to grow our platform massively. To make an AGI to fiat gateway that lets you exchange directly and cash out fiat, I mean, that requires you to be licensed as an exchange, or so that, I mean, that's that question is basically, will we create our own exchange, which is not the immediate plan, but we are, with the native assets and AGI ADA, we are going to work closely with DEXs. I mean, I sort of I tried to avoid too much close involvement with secondary markets so far, just because, in practice, a lot of secondary market activity has been speculative trading oriented, and we didn't want to be engaged with speculative trading. Of course, speculative trading isn't the only reason to use a secondary market. You could want to buy an AGI token just to save it in your own wallet to use on the platform like a year from now for some AI services. So I mean, secondary markets are a valid way to get tokens. I mean, until we made the PayPal interface, that was really the only clear way if you weren't in the original token generation event. But it's a fact there's a lot of people buying tokens on there for speculation. So for that reason, we sort of want to distance ourselves. But I mean, going forward into a phase where token utilization rather than building the platform becomes the main thing. I mean, if we want to drive massive token utilization, I mean, we need to address how people will get the tokens to utilize, right? So I mean, we are now we are in conversations with a few different DEXs in that regard, because I mean, in the end, I'm grateful to Binance and KuCoin for giving people ability to buy AGI tokens and save them and store them for future use, right? I mean, that's good that people who weren't able to participate in the token generation event and don't want to use PayPal, like they can do that. But I mean, DEXs are more in line with the spirit, right? Of course, Binance understands it too. There's Binance DEX, which is really cool. I mean, huge supporter of. So yeah, I think we're probably not going to launch a DEX, but we're gonna work with existing DEXs. I mean, which is something we've avoided doing before because we were mainly in a building phase. Now we're mainly in a utilization phase, right? So it makes sense. And Singularity DAO also is in that direction, because I mean, Singularity DAO is all about using SingularityNET AI to manage these portfolios of altcoins, and on the back end that has to trade on DEXs, right? So just a few more questions that I see, actually. Can we create services that leverage quantum ML on SingularityNET? I mean, someone could certainly, to the extent that there are quantum APIs out there, like on IBM's platform or others. I mean, you could write a SingularityNET agent that wraps up access to quantum computing right now. I mean, right now, honestly, quantum computing doesn't offer a practical advantage, like for a commercial project or something. I mean, it's even though there's been some, in theory, quantum supremacy in some senses, there's not been in practice quantum supremacy in that a quantum algorithm does something better than you could do, like if you optimize comparable code on a bunch of GPUs or something. So it's right now that would be for research purposes, but it'd be cool to see quantum ML for research wrapped up in SingularityNet node. I mean, I think 10 years from now, there's going to be things that your quantum processing unit does way, way better than classical processors, right? And I posted a paper on Archive recently about mapping quantum paraconsistent logic, rather mapping classical paraconsistent logic, a kind of reasoning into quantum logic. And I think you could use that sort of thing to make OpenCog Hyperon run on quantum computers using quantum probabilities for reasoning. And there's some kind of reasonings you can do way better that way than you can do on a classical machine. So that's going to be there. And I think, like IOTA, but even better, I mean, Cardano is going to have the ability to have like quantum resistant blockchain encryption and tools inside it. I mean, Cardano team is all over that. So, I mean, I think that's going to be there. It's not our problem for the next 5 years, to be honest, except in terms of fostering cool research of that nature. How's Singularity Studio doing? How come the studio didn't raise a lot of money? Well, Singularity Studio, Singularity Studio is doing fine and has a few different contracts with companies that are paying it to do development of AI tools. Right now, this is all like private network, private chain AI stuff, not yet launched on public network. And the Awakening Health with the Grace robot is a joint venture between Singularity Studio and Hanson Robotics. I mean, honestly, we talked to investors. We had term sheets and offers of investment. We decided we didn't want to give up that much control of Singularity Studio to investors at this stage. So Singularity Studio is being run by Bill Inman, who's an awesome individual, a businessman with some blockchain experience too, based in LA, is doing some consulting, as I mentioned, and also working toward building an intelligent virtual assistant project for enterprise. So sort of like Alexa for the enterprise, like the similar software Singularity Studio is building for the Grace robot with Awakening Health. We'll put that behind a talking head avatar that can then be licensed to enterprises so that those enterprises can have like an intelligent talking head, natural language processing based, reasoning based interface to all their data and to their operations. So their studio is working on that intelligent virtual agent product development together with doing some consulting. And I mean, the predatory nature of some participants in the venture capital ecosystem is part of why I think tokenized projects are so good for startups. I mean, this is why I wanted to do Singularity DAO, is to make the financial ecosystem, or one of the reasons. Part of it is just to use SingularityNET AI within DeFi. Part of it is because I want to see the ecosystem for early stage tech projects that chose to be tokenized. I want to see that ecosystem to be less crazy and more productive. And I think Singularity DAO, by bundling up the tokens of early stage altcoin projects, can help those projects grow better. But part of the reason we need tokenization as a route to help early stage projects to grow is because the venture capital ecosystem has a lot of predators in it who just want to take control of a company and then drive it to rapid acquisition by big tech companies. And we wanted Singularity Studio to be bigger than that. I mean, we didn't want it to be driven by VCs toward an early acquisition. We want it to grow and become bigger than Oracle as enterprise AI software building on SingularityNET platform. And I mean, I think that can involve taking investor money into Singularity Studio at some point. But to the extent we can do that a little later when we're in a position of more strength, I think that can go better. So we're growing it organically for the time being, but may well start having investor conversations again later this year. Question: why are the staking rewards low compared to other projects? Well, I mean, we sort of fixed the amount of the staking pool and then divided it among all the stakers, and we got a lot of stakers. But I think now moving to AGI ADA, the staking rewards will be considerably higher. So I mean, we will be solving that problem. Also, you know, it costs us way more than it should in gas just to pay stakers now and to do the staking, which is really stupid. So we'll get rid of that gas burden, and we have a bunch of tokens set aside from the new AGI ADA tokens to reward the stakers. So we will see significantly higher staking rewards and also more thought into the staking rewards and the whole system, as per the question about trying to emulate Chainlink's staking and so forth. Have I talked to Charles about building a Cardano stake pool setup with her? No, I will. It's a good suggestion. Though maybe some other folks in the Cardano team. If you print more AGI, won't that increase SingularityNET Foundation's voting strength in future? Well, I mean, the deep funding pool is going to everyone, and tools that are used to pay or incentivize people for development, these are going to those people, right? So I mean, I think that the situation in which this would increase the voting strength in future, I mean, if Foundation stockpiled the tokens, then they would go to increase its voting strength. If Foundation uses the tokens to incentivize development, then it's increasing the voting strength of those developers, which is good. I would like developers to have a lot of tokens. I mean, that's a sort of community that we want. That's the thing with this whole democratic voting thing, is it works best if a lot of the tokens are held by users of the platform, developers for the platform. It doesn't necessarily work as intended if the tokens are held by people who are primarily interested in sort of speculative price-oriented trading, right? And I mean that's there's always going to be that, and it's okay if that's a fraction. But if that was all, you wouldn't necessarily see decisions made for the long-term value of the project and achievement of the mission. So, but I think if you look at the gradual release schedule, even if the Foundation sat on all its tokens, I mean, it would take the Foundation like 4.5 years or something to have 50% of the newly issued tokens. I mean, it would take it, 85 years or something to have a majority of all tokens. So the increase will be a bit, but it's not going to be an insane increase. How many developers are working on the framework? So, there's a lot of different software involved, and there's a lot of levels of involvement. I mean, we've had tens of thousands of people download code from GitHub, and experiment with it. I would say there's hundreds of people doing sort of reasonable, non-trivial things. That includes OpenCog AI, which is in SingularityNET GitHub, as well as the core platform. That includes people making like patches, people building stuff on the platform. That it's sort of hard to say because we don't see it until it's launched. I think it's in hundreds, it's not in thousands, and there's a smaller number who are doing huge amounts of work. We have I guess close to 40, 50 people full time, like funded by incentive tokens from foundation at this point. We had more before. We had to downsize due to crypto winter and then COVID. But I think we don't yet have, to be honest, what Ethereum has, which is like a big community of just volunteer developers. They presumably all own Ethereum tokens, but they're not all being incentivized directly by Ethereum Foundation or by, say, Consensus. So they have a big open development community, and we need that. That has to be there. And Foundation can't do everything. Foundation has to be the kindling for the fire. It can't be like all the firewood for the fire, right? So I think the deep funding pool can be a bridge there, which is what Cardano was looking at with Catalyst also, because they don't have as big a pure volunteer developer pool as Ethereum, although they do have some, partly because their language is Haskell. There's not as many Haskell developers. So I think deep funding pool can be a way to pull people in, and then hopefully some developers who are pulled into the ecosystem, deep funding will push them over the edge to start doing stuff, and then they'll keep going. And these things all work by network effects and critical mass. All right, I think that's most of the questions that have come in now. So, and that's 2 hours, which is starting to give me a sore throat again. So I'm gonna call it at 2 hours here, and again extend my profound gratitude to everyone who listened to me ramble on for all this time, and everyone who posed questions, and to the community who has been actually listening and thinking through this stuff for the last week or so since we put this not very modest proposal out there. And as I said in the beginning, I am heartened by the positive sentiment in the community, not universal but substantial, that I've seen, and also by the willingness to open your minds and think about something that at first seems bad and ridiculous. We need more openness to think and reconsider in the internet and humanity generally. And of course, it's easier to come by in a small community that's aggregated because they care about a particular thing, like Singularity and beneficial decentralized AGI. But I think this sort of process where there's actual in-depth discussion of something of mutual interest to a group of people like this, this is a bright spot in the mania and stupidity of the internet. So yeah, it's taken a lot of time to deal with this process in the last week. So I haven't gotten to plug into Cardano testnet at all. But it has been heartening to see. So yeah, I want to encourage anyone who is a token holder and has not voted yet to log into the voting portal. I shared the screenshot of that in the beginning here, and you can find the link from SingularityNET website or SingularityNET blog post. And yeah, thanks everyone for being engaged and involved. Please vote yes so we can maximize our rate of growth forward. That's both going to help us get toward beneficial decentralized AGI as quickly and with high probability as possible. It's also going to drive massive utilization of AGI token, as quickly as possible with the highest probability, which will increase the value of AGI token, both financially in terms of token utilization and sort of in terms of contribution to our future. Peace and love to all.